I'll just give a quick recap of what we have done. Okay, so we started our SAP Basis training with the architectures, what is ERP and business terminologies, history of SAP, how they have evolved, and the architectures like Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Okay, and then we slowly pitched into, we have introduced you the concept of transports. Okay, and in a three-tier landscape, how the transports moves, and from dev, test, and product to the production. I mean, three-system landscape, not a three-tier landscape, three-system landscape, how it moves there. And then we discussed about the background jobs. What are the background jobs and why they are important, and when we can schedule the background jobs and their advantages and automation and stuff. And also we discussed about users, roles, and then profiles. Okay, how you create the users and user master data, user master record, and then mass maintenance of the users in SU10, and then PFCG for the roles. Okay, and we slowly understood the logs. Okay, troubleshooting, basically that is the most important part of your basis. I mean, we discussed about, let's say, when you have an unexpected outage or the unplanned outage. Okay, so what is a planned and unplanned outage? Planned outage is nothing but suppose if you are changing some parameters or something and then you take a restart of the system, it's a planned outage. Unplanned outage is normally the system crashes. So in that particular situations, I've explained you what to be done. Okay, where to check the logs. And we have also seen a case where somebody has taken a snapshot and quick restart, how we identified also from the logs. Okay, from work directory. So I've also explained about the directory structure at operating system level. Basic USR SAP is the global directory, and then you have system ID, I mean directory, SID directory. So there you can have kernel profile, and then you have this work directory, okay, where you see the logs relevant for the particular system. So that is where, by now you should have some understanding or how SAP system, what will be its directory structure, where you can find these logs, and then creation of users and stuff. So these are all the basic admin stuff, administration stuff. So definitely you will do day in and day out when you are working on these systems, and these are all 5 topics are very, very important. Okay, in continuation to the day 5, okay, where we discussed about abnormal crashes. Okay, I said that day I've explained you all these things. When something happened, those are all the reactive methods. Okay, reactive in the sense, so the incident has been happened, and then you have to rectify it, or you have to then you have to do a root cause analysis and make sure that none of other landscapes have the same issues. Fine. So that is a reaction method, reactive method. So what is the proactive method? Because you cannot keep the system just run it like that, and then you ensure that accident happens. So same like our vehicles also, right? We do regular maintenance. Okay, and then if you see all these cars, latest cars, which you have the monitoring also in place. Okay, where you can see if tire pressure has been reduced, so it will show you that there is a signal like, hey, the tire pressure has been reduced, so punctured. So it keeps glowing that light on your dashboard. So then immediately you get down and you see, and then you get it repaired as soon as possible. Or else, if complete air goes, then it's a problem, and then there is a rim problem, and it leads to a major unnecessary complication. Okay, or all of a sudden, if the air goes, then accidents also can happen. In a similar way, this one, it is very important that we do have a preventive mechanisms. So reactive mechanisms, the other day we discussed in detail by going to the OS level and checking the logs, SM21, ST22, so on, so things. But we mainly focus on the preventive. Okay, how do we have a regular monitoring in place in a system, and how do we prevent things to happen? So that is what we are going to discuss, which is system monitoring. Okay, so it's the disclaimer. Okay, need of monitoring. Why we need this monitoring in place, and concept of central monitoring, and concepts of CCMS alert monitoring. And above dump analysis, I've already explained you. So it could be preventive and proactive, both you can do. And types of RFCs, and then system logs. SM21 also I've explained you. Okay, don't worry. So we will discuss in detail. Okay, guys. So hope you all got the context of what we're going to do today. This is our what we say. One thing, as your career grows, you have to be expert in the troubleshooting. Immediately as soon as an incident happens or something happened, how quickly you bring up the system, that is one variety of skill. Some people will be excellent in that area, but the most underrated area is the monitoring. People think that system monitoring is boring or time consuming or not interesting at all. Nobody cares preventive methods. So, for example, if I ask you to go and do the health checks and all these things, normal body health checkup, you may feel uncomfortable. Why do I have to do all these things? I'm healthy. So, because unless you become unhealthy, nobody cares. A little bit. That is our attitude or the way of thinking. But in SAP's basis world, so the better you have, as an architect or a subject matter expertise, the best monitoring system you have in place for your SAP system. If you have set up such a nice monitoring system, then your life will become much, much easier and very, very comfortable. Okay. What do you say? For example, you are a subject matter expertise. If you have set up an excellent monitoring system for your SAP system, you keep getting alerts. Something is wrong, then you prevent it. So rather than a system get crashes and then you do an RCA, this is the best way. Okay. So that you will have a peaceful life. Fine. So let's proceed in need of monitoring. Okay. Now I will take you to the presenter view, this one. Okay. So, good. Let's start with need of monitoring. Why? Why do we need a monitoring to the system? So, as I said, it's to ensure an error-free functioning of the system. Okay. And then to ensure quality performance of the systems. So, to avoid, as a preventive, to avoid any problem or error that may occur in the system. Okay. To ensure a stable and secure system. Good. So the need of monitoring is mainly to avoid any abnormal things happens. I'll give you one example. Let's say your database, okay, file system, USR SAP or USR SAP directory is the global directory, which we are daily also for logs and all we have used, right? Or we have a database log directory, database back directory. When we talk about this backup and recovery, there I will explain you in detail about if a file system gets full, what is going to happen and how the database behaves. Okay, let's take this as an example. For example, if your USR SAP directory or your global directory, you keep it SAP's global directory got full. Okay, or your database log directory got full. Mainly log directory gets full. Any of these directories are 100% utilized. Okay. So it could be due to too much of logging, okay, or somebody has copying this download. You are copying, patching or something. You download files, right? Fine, those files will be like 1 GB, 2 GB, but still sometimes some people will copy an entire backup. So let's say before the activity, you have taken a local backup or a snapshot. So if you copy that local backup to the directory, it will be like 100 GB or something. That's it. Your file system was full. So what happens if your file system gets full? Even in your laptops, also same issue. If your 500 GB of hard disk is utilized, then it will not find any space for to add another file. So what happens? The rounding clock, hourglass, or in an SAP system, it keeps on rotating, rounding. So what happens with that? So system is in a hung status. Okay. So how we can, if you could have a monitoring system in place, so if you could have configured an alerting system stating that if my file system size goes beyond 80%, please generate me an yellow alert. Okay, it's not a red alert, so that we will see the priorities. There also you can prioritize P1, P2, P3 kind of thing, right? We don't call P1, P2 over there. Yellow, red, green, mostly yellow, red only. Yeah, because there is no green status alert. You don't need it, green status. Yellow alert. So you receive 80% utilization, yellow alert, and you can configure stating that you send an email to so-and-so people or so-and-so your basis group, basically, or your management to alert it. So and then You can also configure if it crosses more than 90%, generate a red alert, which means the system is about to get hang. Okay. So what you can do, immediately you can log in and it will tell you the clear details, which directory alert. You always have an option in alerting what to be monitored and which directory to be monitored. That is fine. So you know that. So it just say that alert, hey, my database directory utilization has gone 80% and it's specific. I mean, it should not be saying any directory in database is getting. You can configure an alert in such a way exact directory is getting full. So that's it. You simply log in within 1 minute and you see the directory and you take a preventive action. So you see what is being copied and you see which is going. So if you have some old backups or old files, so immediately you move to a different server or you delete them. Keep in mind in Basis, always try to avoid removing, deleting, to say RM minus RF or those things. So if first you look for an option where you can copy, in the same directory, what is the size 50 GB? Do I have this space in any other mount or any place? And then you copy to there. But removing, if you're absolutely sure that, I don't need this file and I don't have any other option, then delete it, the old files. Whatever you don't read, but always look for an option. Safeguarding the logs or whatever. As I said, taking backup or things. So that is your first priority. Because you are playing safe. If you need those logs once you delete, as I said, Linux is the most powerful. The moment you do RM minus RF, that's it, it is gone. Yes, even if you delete it, if you want it, you can get it from a file system backup of yesterday or whatever is it. But why do you want to get into such a situation? When you have another mount has a space and then you just move them there. Done. So, if you need it again, bring it back. So that way you play safe. Never delete, remove it directly. So that is the need of monitoring, and that's the use case. One example I've told you. Now let's see how. So how you can monitor the system. So with central and cross system. So like if you go to a shopping mall where they have installed all these CC cameras, right? You see each floor and each shop has a CC camera. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed. And if you go to the basement or if you go to the Prestige Shantiniketan Forum Value Mall in Bangalore, I've seen it there. They have a nice security room. Many malls have it, but some are not visible. Nice security room. And there will be some 20 to 30 monitors installed over there. So they will be monitoring everything, centrally. So all the data from different, let's say, different systems comes to one place or feed it to the one central monitoring place where 3-4 people sits and keep monitoring it. So the similar concept applies for the SAP as well. So let's say in this case, cameras are nothing but SAP systems at different shops or different, same project. You cannot feed the other companies or other projects data within particular landscape. Let's say you have an TCS organization, you have implemented ERP. So you have 10 to 15 systems, SRM, BW, all other systems. So you can feed all of them to one particular central system with the data and you can monitor from that system. I will tell you what are the advantages of doing that. With which tool? It's a CCMS tool. So with using this CCMS, you can do the monitoring, and which is nothing but it's a Solman kind of tool. Solman tool basically. Let's go this way. Good. So now we are going to talk about. Now you understand why do you need this. What is the need of this monitoring system? Number 2, how you do it. So central monitoring system or in the local system also you could do. And then we are slowly going to the architecture of this monitoring system in this SAP system. And then what we do is we will log into the system and I will show you how this monitoring structure are already in place in the system. By default, SAP provides some of these tools. Those things we will see. So let's do some definition reading. And then I will explain you in easy terms. Because these terms also, as I always say, important when you go for certification or interviews. So number 1, so monitoring should be organized as efficiently as possible. You cannot be like every system, like I said. So if you take this shopping mall example, you can keep each monitor in each shop, but you need 100 people for 100 shops, right? If each floor. So efficiently means you can keep all these monitor at one place, but you can manage with 3 to 4 people in some security room. Okay, that is the thing. So monitoring should be organized as efficiently as possible. See, even though you have configured an excellent alerting system, okay, as an SME, so or an architect, as a basis architect, you have designed a superb thing that as soon as the system has a problem, immediately, sorry. So even though you have an excellent monitoring system, if you do not have a efficient monitor, if the guy do not inform you that, hey, I have a problem, and if you don't log in, and if he just ignored it, so then this is a problem. So it doesn't matter what kind of monitoring system you have, nobody has acted and nobody has reacted on that alert, and then it could be. So from designing to the acting upon the alert, it has to be efficient as possible. Okay. So there is not enough time for an administrator to log into each host component to check its status. Okay. So an efficient monitoring structure should be able to display the entire system landscape centrally at a glance. If an error occurs, the person responsible is automatically notified. Tools should be provided for the analysis of errors that provide the cross-system info about the problem. Okay. So what here they are talking is, even though you generate an alert that my file system is just going more than 80%, that alert is not sufficient. Okay. So as an administrator, you need specific rights. I mean, how do you know which server you have to log in? I mean, which server you have to go? Again, you have to, if you are working on the one system, that's fine. But as a basic administrator, you will be working on 10 to 15 systems. Okay. Or sometimes you will be working on 100 plus SAP systems, because all of them do not have issues at the same time. So so the alert should contain, I mean, every detail. Okay. In a key detail. Hey, this is my host. This is what is having the problem. This is the file system. And also you have to give the information how you have to solve it. Okay. So that is the most efficient and way of working. So the moment he looks into the alert, he should get what happened, where it has happened, and how you can fix also. So immediately it has to tell that, hey, go to this directory and check for the old files and delete it. So which is called alert reaction procedures. I don't know if you have heard the term. So people may call it as different terminologies. That is one term in a few projects where I have worked. ARP. They call ARP, alert reaction procedures. So that also, what to be done in case of that also has to be in the alert itself. Okay. Then as soon as alert comes, quickly you can log into the host and then you troubleshoot it. I mean, you do the procedure. I mean, whatever has explained, that's it. So then within 5 to 10 minutes, you can solve it. Or else you have to Google, or you have to go to the wikis or documents where it is unnecessary time waste. So that is how you have to configure an alert in a quick, efficient, with all the host details, everything that alert should contain. So that is what they are talking. Monitoring should be organized as efficiently as possible. Okay. So CCMS monitor infrastructure gives you the option to central and efficient monitoring for the SAP systems. Okay. So this is already there in the system. So this infrastructure exists on every component that is centrally to be monitored. Okay. This is automatically SAP system, software SAP component basis. So what I'm trying to say is, this CCMS infrastructure is part of the core SAP product. Okay. So if you go to the system SAP Basis component, so do you know how to check the EH8? Let me log into the system. I'll show you. So it is a part of the SAP Basis component. Okay. So let's see, EST user 1, log on. So we just have to see the find next page, previous page, now menu, system, status. So let's check this one. It's loading. So I mean, I'm just going to show you the components. Okay, this is how you check the system status. Okay, so it's the client 800 and I'm the user who logged into this. and its time zone is the CET, and this is the system time. Remember, all the logs, I mean, when you are giving the logs also, always refer, I mean, when you are providing these logs and data to whoever is it, the SAP product support or anybody, always mention the system time. Okay, this is in the server level, or you can see the date and thing. Always provide them this system time. Okay, and you should habituate this also. I mean, you, because you're working in a India time zone, and somebody might be working in a Romania time zone or Europe time zone, Germany, or somebody in a MS time zone. So, what is the constant time? So, it is always the reference has to be the system time, because the logs, everything gets generated on the system generated system time, so on so time. Some people use UTC, doesn't matter. So, you always mention that system time 0015, and time zone, it's up to you. Even system time means people will look into the system. I mean, they don't have to look in which time zone it is. They will try to look for the logs at this particular time in the system. So remember, that's the time you have to always keep in mind in the system crashes. So host details, you can see server name, platform ID, etc. And database details also Sybase. So it is a Sybase version, this one. And then you have a host. Our owner is SAP S3. That's all right. So now let's see the SAP system data product. Okay. So these are all the components you find in an ERP system. Okay. But it's an ERP EHP 8 IDS, right? So you find, but if you take a different S4 HANA and all, so you will have some more components or lesser components. Okay. Don't worry. So, but there are few components which are basis components. So SAP underscore basis. Okay. 750. So release patch level, this one. So this is our basis component. So, I mean, you don't have to do, it comes with the software installation. So this is the most important component on anything on the NetWeaver platform. Okay. So SAP Basis, and then SAP ABA. So SAP GWF, SAP UI for the Fiori related user interface technology, and then STPA, solutions and tools and plugins related. But Basis is the main component. So what happens with this component? It will bring in all the necessary monitoring infra, and also this the DB13, ST22. So this kind of frameworks, whatever is needed. Okay. So this Basis is the component which is the main, which contains all the important monitoring structure, what is needed for the system. Okay. So this way, you know how to check the component. So what they are talking, so we are on the 750 level. So which means we have already latest one. Okay. So take this screen. Okay. Keep an eye on the PPT left side. So you have SAP CRM 702, SAP ECC 606. So here it is nothing but ERP. Okay, ECC is a full form. Anybody knows what is the full form of ECC? So what is the difference between ERP and ECC? Anyone knows? So I mean, you hear different terminologies, but both are same. So ECC is nothing but, so this what do they mention here? So ERP is enterprise reloading. It's a kind of package name, a simple name, but it's the actual component name. So SAP ECC means ERP central component or ERP central core component. Okay. 606 means it's a ERP 6 version and EHP 6. I told you, right? ERP 6.0, EHP 1, EHP 2, and then latest one is the EHP 8, enhancement package 8. So this is an EHP 8 version. So this one also ERP CRM means it has the component version 7, CRM version 7.02 is the patch level, SP02. Okay, same way. So you have two systems here, 702 and CRM and ERP. And then you have the SAP NetWeaver ASAP app. So here, okay, on the middle black ones are the systems. So which is whatever is another application server. So then SAP components without SAP Basis and non-SAP systems. So you have varieties of flavors. So there could be something with non-SAP system or SAP component without SAP Basis, like only Fiori, okay, where you don't have a basis component, or you have a Java system, okay, where Java systems you don't have they do have, but there are some Java systems where there is no SAP Basis component, okay. So let's say you have a landscape. This is your landscape in your project. You have varieties of systems. So as I said, so here try to catch the terms. Okay. So you see here monitoring segment. Okay. So each system has a monitoring segment. You see here non-SAP, this one also monitoring segment, non-SAP system also has a monitoring segment. So each one has a monitoring segment. Okay. So each component, what would be the definition of it? Each component collects its own monitoring data using the infrastructure. What infrastructure? CCMS infrastructure, which is part of your system infrastructure, and stores it locally in the main memory. This part of the main memory is called monitoring segment. Okay. So here the question, they will tweak the question. I mean, when it comes to the certification. So where does this monitoring segment stores the data? Okay. So as soon as you hear the monitoring segment, maybe now you have a clear. So you think that, okay, monitoring segment will be in a central system and then it will be stored over there. No, monitoring segment stores the data in the local main memory of the respective system. So far we are talking about each system. We have not moved to the central monitoring. Okay. That is important. So you, as I said, in the 4 systems you see, each one of them has a monitoring segment. Each one will store the data in its main memory. So I will show you later. For now, try to understand the concepts. Okay. So monitoring segment will be there. So each system has its monitoring data in its own system. Okay. So you can pull the data and you can do it whatever you want, but later we come to that. First, try to understand that each system has the framework and collects the data and keep it to itself. That is called the monitoring segment. Okay. So one SAP system, now we slowly move to the central monitoring. One SAP system is selected as the central monitoring system. So out of these 4, okay, non-SAP system or component without the SAP basis or ECC or CRM or any system, you can select it as an central monitoring system. Okay, so this system should have a high release level as possible, and also this central monitoring system has to be highly available. Okay, in large system landscape, we recommend that you to include in a separate system. Okay, that is only used for the monitoring. Okay, central user administration or the transport domain controller, or from a performance point of view, the workload of the central monitoring system increase only insignificantly. Okay. So as collection of the monitoring data is usually decentralized. Okay, let me explain you this part. So in this diagram, you see 4 varieties of system. Okay. So you should, you can make any one of those systems as a central monitoring system. Okay, ERP or CRM or this one, SAP Basis or ABAP NetWeaver applications or whatever is it. You can make one system as a central monitoring system. Okay, so but it is important that why I do not want to have the others, I mean all of them as a monitoring systems, because it's useless and inefficient, right? So as I said, in the shopping mall, so if you have all the monitoring at one place, it is easy to see, I mean, entire what is happening in my entire shopping mall. I mean, it's not efficient if you go with each system with one monitoring system. So that's why we are having one central monitoring system where we collect all the information from all the systems and we display over there. It is easy. So now the important feature or the request for that central monitoring system is it has to be highly available. Okay. So if your central monitoring system itself crashes, that's it. You do not know the status of all the systems connected to it. So high availability is the one of the key recommendation for the whatever the system you select. It has to be in a highly available. Okay. I mean, if your node A goes down, node B should be there. That is the high availability concept. We talk it in advanced sessions. How high availability can be configured, or how disaster recovery can be configured. Disaster recovery is nothing but the entire data center gone for a toss due to floods or earthquake or whatever, terrorist attack. So due to various reasons, the data center is collapsed, bombing. So then you, even though you should have an option that the system should be up and running, that is a disaster recovery. But high availability is if a server crashes and where you can bring it up on a different node, that is the thing. Okay. So it is very important. So the central monitoring system where you monitor the entire landscape, it has to be the high available. So that is what this one is telling, or be high available. And moreover, it has to have a performance also better. I mean, it doesn't matter. because there is no end user impact on this central monitoring system. We'll tell you which system can be configured that way.
Hey, you know, ZaranTech now offers SAP corporate training. That's right. Train your workforce in SAP with our comprehensive program. We offer customized courses, certified trainers, and hands-on labs for both individuals and businesses. Our standout features? Bespoke training, fully configured servers for practice, in-house materials, and a dedicated LMS. Plus, get session recordings and 24/7 support. From functional to technical modules, we have got it all. Choose ZaranTech for SAP training and watch your team excel. Learn, upskill, succeed with ZaranTech.
So what happens is if you select ERP as a central monitoring system, it can have a performance impact, right? Because your end users also logs in, your jobs running, your everything is running over there. So it is not recommended to use ERP as a central monitoring system. Okay, for that, SAP has found a solution. So SAP recommends that you set up a central monitoring as the SAP Solution Manager. So now I have introduced you to a system, SAP Solution Manager. If you, I think many of you have heard of it, right? Did you hear about this system, SAP Solution Manager, guys? Please, yes or no?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, we heard about it. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I am trying to say is, in your entire project, if you have 10 systems or 20 systems, any system you can select as, wherever there is an SAP Basis component, any system you can select as a central monitoring system. But the problem is ERP has its own functionalities. CRM has its own functionalities. I mean, customer relationship management, SRM has its own functionalities. So why do you want to trouble the system which already have some functionality to support? So that is why SAP has introduced a system called SAP Solution Manager. That is a central monitoring system, the middle part of it. Okay, that central monitoring system, it has come up with all these SAP Basis, all the framework over there. So it is very easy. This central monitoring system connects to the satellite systems, they call. Like if you have a home theater, they call it as a satellite speakers, right? The back speakers and the front speakers. Okay, satellite speakers like that. Here we have all these satellite systems, they call. So, I mean, instead of separating for a solution manager perspective, it doesn't know, I mean, ERP system or SRM or anything. It is least bothered about it. I mean, what kind of system monitoring is its least important, okay? So its job is, that's why the term comes satellite systems. So when you look into the solution manager, when you're working, you hear this term a lot, but try to understand satellite systems is nothing but the systems which are connected to that particular Solman system, okay? And the systems which are the particular Solman is monitoring, okay? Those are the satellite systems. So in this case, what are the satellite systems we have? CRM 702 and SAP ERP 646, ECC, we call whatever is it. And then you have an SAP without SAP, with some third party, and non-SAP system at all, something, whatever. So non-SAP systems also you can monitor. So these are the satellite systems which this particular Solman is monitoring. Okay, so now you understood the concept of this, right? Solman introduction. I mean, what we did now. Clear, guys?
Yeah, Nishant.
Excellent. So, I mean, how frequently? One more thing. So each system, I said, this central monitoring system has nothing to do with the data storage or anything. You can clearly see in this diagram, and I have introduced you also. That's what we think, that the central monitoring system or the solution manager takes all the data and stores in it. No, that is wrong. Okay. So central monitoring system, it can have certain amount of data, but it's going to be crazy. I mean, if you do pull the data, then again, it is an unnecessary IO on your CRM. Okay, let me explain. So it doesn't store any data, the central monitoring system. So what it will do is, as I said, monitoring segment, each system has its own monitoring system, monitoring segment. I mean, it stores in your local memory. Okay, for example, your OS related details or DB related details or the statistics or whatever it is, each system has its own database, okay, or on its own local server. So you don't want to pull this to the central monitoring system, I mean, regularly. Why? What is the problem if you pull it regularly? Anybody? So let's say your solution manager is keep on fetching the data. The correct word is fetch and push. Okay, these are the two words in SAP's terminology. Fetch. So it is keep on fetching means your IO increases, right? I mean, on IO means transfer CP minus PR of this one. So you can try. So on your local laptop itself, if you try to copy the multiple folders in one shot, each of them will become slow. Okay, so they take longer time. You complete one by one. So IO increases writing on the block level. So you want to avoid it. So that is why, as I said, the objective of this central monitoring system is to have as efficiently as possible. Let's say in this architecture, each system has its own monitoring segment, or the data is in that particular system. Okay, but only at certain trigger levels. Okay, only at certain things get processed. Then it passes to the soulman. Then that soulman will generate an alert. Okay, or your system generates an alert. So that is the most efficient way. So only when it is needed, or when you are generating some report, or report in the sense monitoring report. It's not the normal regular SAP reports. So monitoring report or a dashboard you are preparing. So last 1 week, how is my system performing? What is my RAM usage? What is my RAM CPU usage? So that time you can call this one. So this solution manager system, how it connects to the satellite systems. Anybody? So in home theater, satellite speakers are connected through wire, right? I mean, you have a wire, front left speaker, right left speaker, and then back speakers. There are wires to connect. So how this Soulman system communicates to all these satellite systems? Anybody? I've explained you. Connections.
Through RFCs.
Excellent. Yes. So all these systems connect to RFC. So remote function call, SM51. Let me show you so that you will connect. SM56, sorry, my mistake. Let me see. SM51, I think. Let's this one is
SM15.
SM59, sorry, yes. This is the transaction code. SM59. Good. Good. So you see here, it's an important thing, understand it. So, I mean, in these 40 hours of course, what I'm giving you guys, majorly I'm giving you the practical examples. But these connections, how you do is very simple. Anywhere you get it, how to edit, and it's self-explanatory also. See, edit, create, and then whatever the fields it has asked, then you input them. That's it. So it's a simple. So the important thing is you need to understand. For example, in this diagram, I have CRM, ECC, non-SAP here, and then non-SAP component, whatever it is. You see here, you have a provisioning for everything. So ABAP connection. So majority of them are ABAP connections. So ABAP connections means what? I mean, the target system is an ABAP system. Simple. So in my diagram, CRM and SRM are the ECC. Both systems can be connected to Soulman. I mean, through this connection, type 3 connection. And HTTP connections to the external server. So which is a type G connection. So okay, it's the name. These are also important, guys. Just remember this. So if you want to connect to an external server, what kind of RFC connection you use? Type G. And then HTTP connection to ABAP system. HTTP is nothing but web-based communication. Please keep that in mind. Web-based communication, HTTP or HTTPS. You see everywhere in your these things. So you can see HTTP, every browser link. So via an HTTP connection, if you want to connect to an ABAP system, So in our case, it's a non-ABAP system, external server, use this one, type G, simple. So and then internal connections, so which are like within the system. So within itself, it wants some connections to communicate to itself. Okay, these are these connections, internal. So internal, we generally do not create. So by default, system will create by itself, like when you are doing these workflows or whatever it is. And then these logical connections also mostly happens within the system. So nothing. And then you have another type of system, TCP/IP. So TCP/IP, when you are communicating with, again, is an external system. But if you want to register some program in a secure way, this connections uses. Okay. So these are the connections based on the requirement you define. So that's how your Soulman gets the data. See, your solution manager is in the between, and then your CRM, there will be an RFC connection, which is of ABAP type, and then your Soulman communicates to ERP or ECC with an RFC type of what we call ABAP type, and then component without. So here you can use HTTP with external server. Here you can use TCP/IP or HTTP with an external server kind of thing. So that is how you define your RFC connections. Okay, so good. So any questions, guys, on this concept of solution manager? So let me recap it. So yeah, definition of active passive. So I mean, since we are talking about this collection of the data, so an active data collector automatically collects data without an actional trigger. For example, the dispatcher. So yeah, so active collection means you remember in USR SAP directory, right? Global directory. I've shown you some logs: dev_work process, dev_message server, dev_dispatcher kind. So you don't have to specifically ask them to collect the logs. So day in and day out, it keeps collecting the logs. If you go to the system now, it is been getting updated. That is the active collection. So I mean, it keep on collecting the data or the logs. And what is the passive connection? Passive means, so it is like whenever you need it, report. As I said, central monitoring doesn't fetch the data unnecessarily, because that increases an IO and it unnecessarily uses the network bandwidth also. Okay, so it made things very simple for you. I mean, easy for you that, okay, what is going to happen if my system keep on fetching the data? So yes, IO, it may look to you a very simple thing, but it can lead to very severe complications if you unnecessarily utilize your network bandwidth or IO. And another IO is one thing, I mean, writing into the block. Another one is the network. Okay. So for example, in your house, right, you have a Wi-Fi router or whatever it is, mobile network or whatever it is. If we just do a speed test.net, you'll get the speed of it. Okay. 40 Mbps or 150 Mbps or 300 Mbps. Okay. That's the network speed. I mean, I'm just trying to make it as simpler as possible for you to understand. Okay. So you have that network speed. Now what happens if you have connected multiple devices and you have started watching movie? Okay, you have started watching a movie. So I mean, your friend and your parents watching some serial in a Hotstar or somewhere. Your brother is watching in Netflix or Prime Video, and then you are working. So what is happening? So everybody started fetching the data. I mean, you started utilizing not data. It started utilizing the network bandwidth. Okay, so these all systems, right, they might be in one data center or they could be some network bandwidth defined. So maybe in SAP systems, 10 GB per second, that will be the speed. So based on your network also, pricing will be based on your network speed also, like same, 1,000 rupees, you have 300 Mbps, 1,500, you have 400 Mbps. Same like the kind of infrastructure you have a network bandwidth, 10 GB per second or 20 GB per second. So if it is a BW, 100 GB per second also there. So now what happens, you may recollect or not, if it starts fetching the data, so which means everybody starts streaming, like in your thing, your network bandwidth will become busy. Okay, which means if you are working, if you're working, you feel like slowness. So the same thing, it will reflect to the entire data center. So you might be thinking that, oh, only from two of my SAP systems I am picking, but you are hitting the entire data center. Okay, whatever, because the data center whole has a network bandwidth, but you two are using the entire thing. I mean, to fetch the data on this one. That is why passive data collection is also important. Okay, so which means only when you need it, the solution manager will get the data and give the report. So that is why the monitoring segments also defined in the respective systems. I mean, you just store it locally. I mean, copying to one server is very tedious, and network consumption and IO extensive works. So avoid all those things. So that is why the first term, your monitoring should be organized as efficiently as possible. And this is the most efficient way of organizing. Put the data in the own system, let it collect actively and keep it with itself. But my solution manager will call them as and when needed. to submit monitoring reports or anything. So that time it picks from that respective servers and then publish the data or generate alerts or trigger something, whatever is it. So that is the passive way of collecting the data. Okay. So this is the basic architecture or the fundamental understanding of the solution manager. So if you have this basic understanding, so it's the most simplest way of understanding it. So I could have given you 10, 15 slides explaining what could have been done and this one, but this is the simplest way, basics. So this way you will be able to figure out anything. So see now, if somebody complains about my solution manager is very slow, so just check the satellite system RFC connections if they're active. So just check RSPF, RF check connection is there. So what are these connections and how many of them are active? It will give you details also, timestamp so and so, timestamp to so and so, timestamp it is active. So which means you can tell that, boss, why are you pulling so much of data? It's unnecessary. Reduce it, cut it down. Unnecessarily. So some guy could have done it. Okay, every time my solution manager will, that comes in a solution manager configuration. But with this basic understanding, you can reduce those performance issues or you can figure out them. Okay. Now, we move to the little bit more into the technical aspects of this. So data collection, this CCMS monitoring infrastructure. So CCMS monitor infrastructure consists of three functional areas, okay, mainly. So one, as I said, data collection. It collects the data, and then data storage. Where do you store the data? And then you have the data analysis. Okay, so at the data collection level, the bottom of the screen, sub areas of an SAP system are monitored by these special programs called the data collectors. Okay, data collectors can be ABAP, C, or Java programs. There are several hundred data collectors in ABAP alone. Okay, each data collector checks its subcomponents as regular intervals and stores the collected monitoring data in the local monitoring system. Okay, I'll explain you this one. Good. Now let's read the definition of the second line as well. The area of the shared memory, so these are the exact terminology, shared memory, that contains the collected data by the data collectors is called the monitoring segment. Okay, so data storage takes place within the monitoring segment. As the monitoring segment is periodically overwritten, parts of its content can be transferred to your database tables. You can then analyze the data later. So the data collection and storage element must be present on every component that is to be centrally monitored. Good. Now let's discuss about this one. So data collection. So yesterday, we logged into the server. We have an EH8 system where first thing is on the server or the application, the data has to be collected. Okay. So who will collect the data? So let's say dispatcher. So I showed you dev underscore logs, dispatcher logs, dev underscore message server, dev underscore so and so thing. I've shown you all those logs, right? So it is collected. Something is collecting the data. Okay. So what are they? Nothing. So in any software terminology, anything what we talk is simple. So program. It could be C. In our this thing or ABAP or Java mainly. As I said, we have two types of runtime environments, ABAP and Java, and then C is the most common language where we use. So it could be any of these three types, or it could be an external also. But for now, for our discussion purpose, just have them. These are the three types of data collectors or the programs which are always running on the server. Okay. So, which are generally part of the kernel. So kernel is what? exe directory, which is nothing but an executables. Okay. Some of them are part of this SAP Basis component, or some of them will, so ABAP related. Okay. Let me explain here also. So ABAP related programs or the monitoring data collectors or these programs which collect the data comes as part of SAP Basis component, which I've shown you. And then C comes as a part of which one? Server, OS, a kernel, means kernel level or shell scripting also will be there in Linux. Shell will be there, but most of them are again written in the C. So then Java programs. Java programs are in Java systems. Okay. So, I mean, they have their Java programming written data collectors. Okay. So, okay, absolutely fine. On each host, on database or operating system or in a dispatcher or non-SAP anywhere. So these data collectors keep on collecting the data. And then where do they store that data? They will send to the monitoring segment. Okay. So monitoring segment, as I said, each instance or each SAP, SAP system is different, instance is different. Okay, I will explain. I will come to that. So each instance has a monitoring object or data storage monitoring segment. Okay. So what I'm going to explain now is note that every instance of an SAP system with the software component SAP Basis has its own monitoring system. Every instance, okay, segment in the shared memory. This means if an SAP system has 8 instances, like I said, CA you have one, and then you have the primary application server, and then the secondary application server 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it has 8 application instances. So this monitoring segment is local for each server. You keep that way. Each server, I mean, irrespective of your monitoring instances and all, each server has a different monitoring segment. Because again, from server to server, if you copy centrally at one place, again, it's a problem. I mean, again, you are increasing the IO in between those two servers. So that's what you're making. Even though I have an 8 application servers, each server has its own monitoring segment. Each server will store the data on its particular server. So only when and then needed, that data will be collected for the data analysis purpose. Now the second part, third part comes data analysis. Okay, this part is clear. So data collection can happen anywhere. It can be collected by a web program or C or Java programs, just executables. And the storage of the data will be put it in a monitoring segment on each instance or each server. Okay. So for the data analysis purpose, you can active or passive I explained. So whenever you need it, you just fetch the data or using some report or some background job. You call that to the solution manager or any third-party tool through RFC connection. You fetch the data from that respective server. Then you do the graphs or reports or whatever you want. Okay. So you may think that, so these monitoring data analysis tools, is it only SAP or we have third-party tools also? So SAP has analytics tools, SAP Analytic Cloud and business intelligence, Microsoft's Power BI. Have you heard of this Power BI? Or
yes, Tableau.
Tableau, excellent. Yes. Those are the analytical tools, okay, which will generate graphs and stuff. So, I mean, if you want to push that data to such tools also, it is possible. So like I explained you, RFC connection again, same. So you define the RFC connection to that Tableau through external program way, I mean, type G or type TCP IP connection. So then it connects to that particular thing, and the Tableau, there are how to do that also. There is a help.sap.com documentation, but anyway, for the scope. So only basic scope there is to develop, to make it an integration. In the sense, you just define the RFC connection and give the Tableau's user ID or password details maintained in SM59. So that will connect to it. So how they design or how they want what to fetch and all, that is the Tableau's or whoever the developers who are working on it. You got it? Again, they cannot give star and pull from everything from this system. Then that's a very inefficient way of designing. Okay, because that will increase again performance, lead to performance problems. But they do take whatever needed or the important data. Okay, so that is the data analysis. So data analysis can be done with third party. So this location will have all the third parties who can fetch the data or who has developed these integrations. You can find those details. So this part, is it clear, guys? Very, very important. Okay, before I move to the next thing. So data collection can happen and data storage happen on the each server. It's not the entire system. Each server will have its own monitoring system and the data is stored over there. And analysis part is very clear, straightforward. Okay, so same thing, data collector, whatever I have explained. Okay, let me quick recap. ABAP or C programs, and then it is monitor level interval. Yeah, that's fine. So it will collect the data, these programs, and it will keep on the same instance, what I've explained. Okay, on the same server. So now data storage, I explained you, this happen every instance. This term you need to understand this. Every instance of SAP system has its own monitoring segment in the shared memory, which means if you get confused with the instance, just think in a perspective that each server, forget about all the things. So you have CI and then AA01, AA02, 10 servers are there. Each server has its own. That is the crude way of remembering this. Okay, then again, if you say instance, I have a same term. In SAP, they call it as an instance. But you crude way of remembering it is each server has its own monitoring. Shared memory, it will be shared over there. Okay. So analysis can be done through expert tools. As I said, we have SAP internal tools, and Solution Manager also has some graphs, and Analytics Cloud is there. So we have a lot of tools, any tool. Okay, but the most important is how you collect the data and where you store it. So, but on top of it, to do the analysis and these things, a lot of tools are there in market. So I think you might, it's the buzzword now, machine learning. Okay, data science. Okay, these are the most buzzwords in the market. I mean, if you see the courses, many institutes offering the courses on these particular things. So this machine learning and this data science were not new. They've been there from last 40 to 50 years. From last hundreds of years, statistics. So they used to call as the statistics earlier. Okay. So statistics, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is the data. So earlier, people were recording manually, right? From last 40, 50 years only, the revolution of internet has happened. So now we have a version of data, too much of data. So how you do get the, what do you want to generate out of the data is the data science. Okay, how you manage such a vast and GBs of data, and then as part of it, data mining, just that mining the data and making some inferences and stuff. And then this machine learning. Machine learning is nothing but at the end of the day, data science is the heart for the machine learning. It's without data, you can't do any machine learning. So machine learning algorithms has to be fed by the data at the end of the day. Okay. So same way, SAP system collects the data collectors and they will place on the server level. That's it. You give it to anybody, anything, whatever you want to do. Data. Data is the core. I mean, as long as you have the data, you develop any algorithm, any graphs in a beautiful way, whatever you want, automations, anything you do with the data. So that is the important. Those two are the most important aspects SAP will do that you have to understand. Okay. So now we will go to the SAP monitoring system. Okay. So monitoring structure. So the most important thing here is, so few terminologies you need to understand. Okay. But is this structure, I don't know whether you will be able to understand it or not. These definitions. And I won't recommend you to remember these words also. It's useless, utter useless. Theory. But just for the training purpose or the information purpose, it's my responsibility to give you the details. But RJ20 is the most important thing. We will do a demo. We will log in and we will see after this slide or next 3 slides. We will do everything. But for now, you understand it, then you can relate it. So in RJ20 provides monitor definitions that you can use to display monitoring data. Okay, the 3 structures and all we will see there. So monitoring tree element, any node of the monitoring tree is called the monitoring tree element. Okay, good. So let's take this one, the middle of, let me put here. Okay, so we have a middle monitoring tree element. Okay, so, and then at the bottom, you have the monitoring attributes. See, total 3 terms you can see here: monitoring tree elements, monitoring objects, and then monitoring attributes. Okay, simple. I will show you in the system. So monitoring tree elements are like, it's the dotted lines. Follow this one, then you will be easy to connect. So host details, the server, as I said, you have 8 application servers. Each server has its own shared memory or the monitoring data. Okay, so which means if you have 10 application servers, this kind of host detail will see in the system. Host details and then the instance number, like that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this tree, it starts with this tree. So in this tree, for any server, okay, what are the important? So I'm talking about this one, guys. The first one. So monitoring tree element host. Okay. So I'm talking about monitoring tree element host. So, which means you are monitoring a host server. So what are the important aspects you monitor in that? Operating system, obviously. In operating system also, what do you measure? Disk usage. I mean the space. I gave you an example, 80% utilized, 90% utilized disk. And the another important thing you monitor is the CPU. Okay, how is my CPU? I mean, if you run too many parallel processing, like copying the data or like solution manager is fetching the lot of data. So whatever it is, generating too many reports, long running background jobs. So your CPU will go high. What happens if your CPU utilization become high? Again, it leads to a system hang situation. So on a server, definitely you have to monitor your CPU also. And then buffers. How are my log buffers? I mean, so there is a little bit of extension for every memory, like dialog word process, I have a buffers. So those buffers, how are they being utilized? Okay. So as I said, CPU, you talk about CPU utilization, buffers, swap ratio, hit ratio. So these things we'll see. So these are the hit rate. Sorry. Can anybody explain me what is hit ratio? Do you know? Suppose if my hit ratio is 99%, what does it mean? I mean to a server. So if a server statistics or the buffer statistics will show that 99% of the hit ratio, is it a good or bad one? Or how? What will be the hit ratio? I will tell you in a simple term. Anyone heard of this term? Hit ratio? Good. So let me explain. Hit ratio is nothing but, suppose, simple, don't go with the technical terms, technical details, because it's important for you to understand what it is. I mean, the value is good or not. So if you hit it 99 times, or if you send a request to the server 100 times, 99% means 99% of the 99 requests got successful. Okay. So 99 requests got executed or ping happened 99 times successfully without issues. Okay. So the hit ratio is generally 99.9%. Okay. Which is very good. Okay. So 100% is very rare because there will be some minor glitches in milliseconds and those lead to that 0.0901% of this one. So hit ratio means if you ping or if you try to reach to that particular host on 100 times, how much of them are successful? 99%, 0.9 means 99.9% of the requests got successfully hit. Okay, to that one. That is the easier to understand. Good, whatever it is. So in a monitoring tree element, host, and again, so this is all operating system. So you have one monitoring tree operating system and then disk. So disks and CPU buffers are the monitoring objects. I mean, these are the objects or the monitoring things which you will monitor. And these are the monitoring attributes, what you monitor or how you monitor. I mean, what are the thresholds, etc. And then in the SID, you have this SRM, TREX, BW, so many things, database, forget about all of them. For now, you just focus on the this particular thing. If you understand, that's it. So in a monitoring tree element of the server, you have the monitoring objects, disk, CPU, and buffer. And then you have the monitoring attributes, CPU utilized, swap utilized, and hit ratio. Okay, so let's do this one. So the same thing which was given in the theory over here. Okay. Now, if we go to the system, then you will understand in a nice way. Let's do this. Let me put this screen. Okay. So let me go to the RZ20. Okay. So what is the slide? You see the slide, transaction RZ20. So SAP CCMS monitor templates. So this is the monitor side. So here you have the monitor definitions. So monitor definitions are different views basically. And then we also see the operating system as a monitoring object. So here you see, and then monitoring object, monitoring segment. Good. Let's see this. So SAP CCMS monitoring templates. So where are they? SAP EW. I mean, you have a lot of these things, but we'll see one of the. So technical monitor templates, this one. Let's go with this one. So we are okay. And in this one, So what do we want to see now? CCMS monitoring systems or the entire system or operating system. So let's do the entire system, or so these are basically entire system, or do we have anything like operating system? That's all right. Let's do the entire system. Let me double click on it. So as I said, entire system, you have an SID. Here we have only one system. So EH8, it has got how many application servers? If you come here, only one. Suppose if you have 8 application servers or 10 application servers, you will find all of them here. A01, each server will be available over here. Okay. So in this one, so basically it's a monitoring tree. And then you have these monitoring objects, operating system and all. And then you have these monitoring attributes, CPU, memory, paging, swap, whatever else. So as I said, definitions, forget about it. Whatever is the monitoring tree, it's a tree is just explanation, monitoring tree. And then monitoring object, application server is your monitoring object. And operating, this all three things are like monitor objects only. And then operating system is the monitoring, it's a drill down basically. Operating system is your monitoring object. Just that it's an entity you are monitoring here, object means nothing. So it's the operating system you are monitoring. And then if you say database client, your database you are monitoring, it's a database object. So R3 services, it's an object, monitoring object, that's it, the term. And then you go and then you drill down to the monitoring attributes. So forget about the definitions now. So now, if I ask you to see how is your system performance, just go to the entire system and open the system server and then you see it, that's it. So you don't need to recollect or do anything. I mean, you don't need to remember any of these definitions. Okay. So now let's see the R3 services. So we'll see here, it's an object and forget about it. Then you have dialog response time. Okay. So you see now majority of it's a beautiful one is. So the current dialog response time, I mean, the dialog request, what is, the time each request is taking is 186 milliseconds. Okay. If it is in seconds, I told you in the initial days, seconds is the biggest problem. You always have the milliseconds. Is the fraction of seconds the request should be processed. Now you see response time or the response time of a dialog, response time of an RFC, all these things looks good apart from the log on load quality at this moment. Okay, so which is all green. So this is the green color. But if you want to see in last 24 hours, okay, how my system was behaving, okay, how whether there were any peak in response times in the night time or any problem at the times, that we have to see in a different way. But for that, before we go there, I want to show you little bit of theory, okay, before I execute and show you. Okay, so the next slide is fine. So this is what I'm going to explain now. Same one. Good. So let's come here. Where is my system? Okay. So here, just follow me. It is nothing, but now you understood the how to drill down to the EHA. So here we have two buttons. So open alerts. Can you see here? So open alerts. For example, you select the dialog response time and then open alerts. Okay. So you see now there were 20 alerts generated. Okay. The first one response time, you see this one. So this is a view, open alerts view. That is one way of view. And the one, the back, suppose if I give this, okay. So entire system, EH8. So application server, this one. And then what I'm talking, R3. R3 is nothing but a system and then data. So what you see here, 169 milliseconds, 41 milliseconds is current data. Okay, which means at this particular moment, how is your system performing? For example, if you just click on this open alerts, so then it will tell you how many times till now, how many alerts it has gone generated in the past also, and how many times, what was the maximum. So here you see 20 alerts were there, and the thresholds 11.3 milliseconds. So 3 milliseconds is the threshold. Okay. As I said, you can configure an alert. This is an alert architecture, but for now, you don't need to understand. It's a very simple also. But for now, as a basis guy, you understand. And this 3 milliseconds is your threshold, which means if my dialog response time is more than 3 milliseconds, then you trigger an red alert. Okay, this generated 20 alerts for that. So it goes to the so this is the see 3 means 4 times it has increased than the normal dialog response time, which is a wrong thing. So something was running at that particular time. So that you have to troubleshoot what was happening and what could have led to this one. Okay. So now let's double click what it will show. Oh, sorry. Okay, this has gone back. Let me go back. Okay, good. So now you see these alerts. You will try to do these things. Okay, whatever I am doing now, go and open alert view. You see at what are the timestamps? On 1209, 1034, the dialog response time has increased. I mean, it is more than this. And again, 21 on yesterday, 11th. So these are the 3.008 is fine. It's just a fraction of this thing, but this one is crucial to understand, right? So 4 times it has increased. So why and what have led to that is you need to understand. Suppose you come here on 27th of August, see this row. Let me highlight it. 87.7 milliseconds, which means system was definitely not doing good. So it had a very big problem. Since it is a sandbox system, so it could have a less performance issues. But in general, if you go to a production system, you don't find these many alerts, believe me. Okay, this whole section looks green because if it is doing so much of red thing means, I mean, it is not defined properly or the system has very less number of RAM, CPU or hardware problems. Okay, I mean, that system definitely needs a tuning. I mean, in the sense performance tuning. So what do you do if you are getting too many of these dialog response times? So what you have to do is you have to do an analysis. Okay, in the system, you need to see what is my user load. I mean, dialog. Here we are talking about dialog response time. How many users are there in my system? Okay, so 1,000 users. Then what is my RAM and CPU utilization? It's high. So how frequently they are logging into the system? Oh, these some everyday login. So the option is to increase an application server. Okay, suppose if you have one application server, put another application server so that the dialog load will be taken care. So like that. So you have to do an analysis like that for this dialog response time. Okay, so this is just on how to view things. Acting on these alerts is fine. I mean, it depends very system to system, but at least that comes with an expertise and as I said, like through investigation, users, capabilities, and also. But for you, it is important to understand. As I said, 60 to 70% of the problem is solved as soon as you realize what was the problem. I mean, now you got to know at what times it is happening and who are all logging into that time or what are they doing. Or it could be a reason that at the time, some tasks like which could have been done in the background, somebody is executing report which is running for 5 to 20 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. Fine, that guy has executed and he is doing daily like that only because he don't know how to schedule it in background. So such kind of things you have to identify and tell them that, hey, tune it. So, or ask those users to run it in the background or, or if it is a repetitive, schedule a background job kind of thing. So that is the most important. This is how you check in this alerting system. Go back. So so there are two views. So the entire system, if you see. So current node display back. So node display refresh and open alerts. So you practice it today. These things, CCMS monitor templates, entire system, EH8. So now application server, let's see, what do you have? So let's see if we have something operating system. We have seen the dialog response time. Operating system for now, it looks everything good. So open the alerts. So this one, click on this. This is important. So which means there were some alerts for CPU.
What sets ZaranTech apart in SAP corporate training? It's our unique blend of expertise and innovation. We offer customized courses tailored to each client's needs, ensuring relevant, targeted learning. Our vast trainer database brings you wisdom from the best in the field. Need resources? Access our extensive training material repository anytime. We are all about measurable results, providing detailed student metrics to track progress. And we don't just teach, we build community. Join our thriving social media network, connecting learners beyond boundaries. With ZaranTech, you are not just training, you are transforming your SAP expertise.
Let's see. 5 minutes load average, 10 loads. Okay. So CPU load is a little bit more compared to the others. So just double click. See, you see the CPU load how. So it is just a little overshooting the threshold. Okay. So then, which means it's fine. You can live with this problem. Or if it is overshooting more and consistently, then you have to increase the CPU. Okay, increasing the CPU means upscale your hardware. Go with a better hardware where you have more CPU and more RAM kind of thing. So this is how, yeah. Any question?
Can we give the date range for this one, for CPU utilization? If any functional team asks for this CPU utilization.
Yes. So you can do that. So you come here and you filter it.
Okay, got it. But it's giving till 11th only, right?
Yes. 11th means the system didn't have any alerts before that, or the system started from September only, right? September 6th, this was built. Okay. So here you have short in ascending order. You have this one, right, sir? Can you see? So let's see this. So which means ascending means it is in increasing order. So that's short in descending order. So time interval you can select. You see here.
Yeah.
Okay. These options will be there, and in anything that flexibility will be there. We just have to explore what we are looking. That's it. Okay. So, and for you, the most important thing. So the thing. So now you see an alert that CPU utilization has increased a little bit. Okay. So what it will happen is this thing alert configured. So we can configure that particular alert, stating that whenever there is a CPU utilization more than this threshold, send an alert and so group. Okay. What do? Then immediately you log into the system and you will check in the system what are the jobs running and what is happening, and you try to fix the issue. Or if there is a high utilization by one particular work process, you kill that work process, because if it is hanging the system, right? You understand? Suppose if it is hanging, sometimes killing also doesn't help, because CPU utilization is a critical situation. No, majorly it won't go. So in general, can somebody tell me how much is the CPU utilization recommended for a system? How do you define? For example, is it like in our laptop? Sometimes it goes 70% above, 80% above. Okay, but for an SAP server, what will be the day-to-day utilization of the CPU utilization for a red alert? Okay, I'll tell you. So if you just, always keep 30% only. Okay, that is how SAP systems designed. You can, if it is going beyond 30%, then it will trigger an alert. So you always have a 70% ideal CPU. Okay, so CPU utilization is a very critical thing. So that is why they will be little bit of lenient, or they provide more CPU for any system. Okay, you still have 70% ideal, which is a good thing. But sometimes with the database extensive work on BW systems, it may go up to 60% or 70%. But if it is going beyond 70%, means immediately they will stop the loads. Okay, they will stop the loads, or they do in chunks, or we have to find an alternative workarounds. Okay, but hitting beyond 70% is, it is like you are going at a speed of 200% and hitting in the system to something. Some tree or getting accidented. So it is not good. Never let a system crash because of the CPU utilization. Very, very, very serious impacts. Okay. If a system crashes due to CPU, so it can lead to what your system CPU crashed. So CPU crash means your data can get corrupted. You don't know the status of what is happening on the server at that particular time. So let's say if a BP guy is generating some, they purchase in crores, right? I mean, from petrol bunk to petrol bunk transactions. So the business to business transactions, which are crores of rupees. So those purchase order in between. So for him, it says that it is paid, and for them, it says it's not paid, right? So such kind of the purchase order will get stuck in middle. So very, 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 very crucial. Okay, then again reputational impact. Legal. BP says I paid, and you say you have not paid. So it is in between. Okay, so that is the very, very tricky situation. So CPU crashes are very bad thing to happen. Okay, your file system structure may go crazy, and then your data get corrupted. So many things. So never ever. That's why they will be very lenient about the CPU. So if it is 30% utilization on a day-to-day basis is the most recommended, and 70% ideal they have it. So anything in memory and others also, if you go to the file system, maybe in this system it could be different. So, but in other system, if you go to the production system, you have lots and lots of memory utilization, disk space also, because disk space is not costly. Okay, CPU is costly. So, definitely CPU is costly, but risk of losing a system with CPU is very dangerous. You got it right. So risk of losing a CPU or a hardware failure due to CPU is very high. Your entire system go for a toss, and it has a more revenue impact. So then it is good for them to increase it. RAM, yes, with the RAM, like we have mobile phones, right? 2 GB RAM, 3 GB RAM, 4 GB RAM. So as and when the RAM increases, your price increases. Same. But storage, disk space, that is very, very cheap. Right now, you get 100 GB of free space just for 100 rupees per month in Apple or Google Drive. Google Drive 32 GB free for you, right? Like that, space is very cheaper. This hard disk spaces. So never ever measure that. I have an 1 TB. See, these mobiles also they're selling, right? Apple and the Samsung and all are selling. Like, hey, I have a mobile 64 GB, 128 GB, and then 256 GB of free. That is not RAM. That is a disk space, and it is just that they're fooling the people. It is very, very cheap. And you see, 32 GB mobile phone has a price of some 30,000, and then 64 GB will have a 40,000 one. How much the physical memory has increased over there? Just 32 GB. So for that, they're charging 10. It's a marketing gimmick, or the fooling the people who doesn't understand these concepts or easy thing. So yes, you may have a 32 GB, a 64 GB extra space on your phone, but it is very cheap. It is a negligible amount. For him, hardly it is like manufacturing 32 GB and 64 GB costs him the same, at some 1,000 rupees or 1,200 bucks. That's it. Not more different. But that is what I'm saying. So I would suggest to go with the least space only, 32 GB if you are getting a good phone. But you check the RAM and CPU. So RAM and CPU, you assess the phone or any server. This is also important, guys, for basis guys. Understand it in these basic terms. When you are designing, you may have to design what is my RAM of the server, what is the CPU. So always go with the better RAM and better CPU. That's fine. You pay for it based on the customer's budget and stuff. But for the disk space, never spend money. Okay. For example, you have a 32 GB of, you purchased a 32 GB of, try to collect, sync it between that and this terminology. 32 GB of an iPhone you purchased, and then you need more than 32 GB. Simple, install a Google Drive. So you have another 32 GB. It's just 2 minutes job for you. Install a Google Drive, you'll get free 32 GB. After that, you have to pay some 100 bucks or something. Forget about it. So 32 GB. And then move all your old files which you are not using. It's just 1 minute. If connect to a Wi-Fi network is free, or office network, just move them. All 32 GB, you got an extra space. So which means your phone is operating as an 64 GB with free of cost without spending that extra 10,000 bucks. So same is applicable when you are designing the server also. So these guys will come and tell you that, hey, I will give you a free disk space as much as you want. So 10 TB, 20 TB free space, take it. Why do I need it? That space is free. You don't spend money on it. So that you have to suggest to the customer, dear customer, or as an architect, you have to say that, hey, disk space, I'm least bothered for now. I am bothered about my RAM and CPU. How much RAM and CPU you are offering? I don't care about the disk space. I'll tell you, disk space, you can increase whenever you want. You have NFS. I mean, network file systems. So, and the live itself, you can increase from 30 to 200 GB to 500 GB. It's just clicking one button in this hyperscalers. Okay. So that disk space you can increase anytime. Okay. But you cannot increase or, decrease this RAM and the CPUs. You can increase, you can scale out. Put another application server and all, but it's risky. It's another tedious job. Okay. But that is how you have to assess when you're designing. So now you understand, right? CPU thing, how you design. CPU, you always be generous about the CPU. And then RAM also try to be generous. But RAM will cost a bomb for the customer. So RAM, you assess it based on the number of users, load. And there is a quick sizing tool in help.sap.com where they will give some recommendations what to use. But never ever spend money on the disk space. Okay, it's a useless. It's just a marketing gimmick where people sell it too much. For example, like petrols, right? If you go to the Shell petrol bunk, they'll say, I am giving you V power petrol and that power. That's a marketing gimmick. You can Google it and see every petrol or every diesel comes from the oil upstream. So wherever they have done the tuning. Okay. Yes, these guys will add some chemicals and purify it and all. But the thing is, your engine or your car engine or bike engine has manufactured in such a way that some standards of diesel or petrol, and that works. But if this petrol and diesel, if you put this new petrol and it will cause more harm to your engine than using the normal one, because those plant guys would have tested your engines, everything is the old one. So that way. So never ever, these are all marketing gimmicks. Some of them do. In the industry, just to sell at a little bit a higher price or a thing. Okay. Same is with the disk space also in servers. So don't go with the 20 TB, 30 TB of disk space. It's useless. So that is the NFS and all these file systems are available and they are very, very cheap. Okay. These are shared directories and all. Okay. So CPU and RAM is the most important thing. So I think this is about, you see, this ST22, this monitoring structure I've explained you. Alert browser, how to check your alerts and stuff. I've shown you in the system. Just explore in RG20. Forget about these definitions are just for the naming purpose. But you drill down. Practical is most important. How to check the alert and what were my threshold, how many times it has happened. So it helps you to do a preventive analysis. So last 1 month, how many alerts were there, why they are happening, and catch those timestamps. So at that timestamps, do you have any background jobs running, or how many number of users logging in? That things you will try to catch them. So ST22, the other day I explained you the dump analysis, and then so these whole things I've explained already. So SM21 also I have explained. So that's it for this module. We will talk in one more important topic on tracing. Fine. You have, for example, like yesterday we discussed, if the server crashes or a system crashes, you have the logs to look at it. And this monitoring is like a more preventive and to even analyze how my system is behaving. And there is one more thing, live troubleshooting. Okay. If a guy is logging into the system and if he says, I am having a problem, how do you trace them? How do you increase the trace for those particular things? How do you get the relevant logs for that? That we will see. Okay, please try to connect these three scenarios. So, what we discussed so far, see three major things when it comes to the troubleshooting. Okay, so number one, the fifth day, last Friday, we discussed about after a crash, what you have to do, taking the log backups and logs directory, and then checking the logs and identifying the problem, and then fixing it, and then bringing it up issue ASAP, and then do an RCA. That is one aspect. The second one is we discussed about the preventive. How do you do like kind of health checkups? So we do before it system crashes. Now this third scenario is during the issue. There is a problem, and then during the actual issue, still the issue is not yet troubleshooted. So, and then, but you have to understand what exactly is causing. Okay, let me do the presenter's view. So, like we do always. So that is the troubleshooting with the traces and protocols. Okay, how do you do with during the issue? Live troubleshooting. Activating further traces and seeing what exactly is happening in the system. When particular transaction or particular problem occurring. Okay. So it's a disclaimer. So the agenda, identify the trace options in the system. Okay. And then we do perform simple traces. I mean, like live demo or at your home, you can also try. In the exercises, I've covered them. Okay. But a live demo will do. I mean, that will be the more, that way I can use doing in the system, and then stuff also. I mean, will be in sync with the theory and practical. Here, I will show you. So you can follow the process of various operations in your system with trace functions. Okay. This allows you to monitor the system and isolate problems that occur. There are many trace options in SAP system, like ST01, ST05. We will discuss it. Okay, what were those trace options? But basically, to understand the problem or to get more relevant information for that problem, and then to address that issue, these trace options will help. As I said, you cannot activate these traces longer duration. What would be the reason? It will start tracking everything. I mean, it is absolutely not needed, and it's too many logs. And as I said, SAP system has so many warnings, from end user to network, their local issues, something. So if you don't want to keep track of all those unnecessary issues, okay, because for everything it starts tracking, and then your file system gets full. That is one thing. And then it's not only getting full, or your resources, RAM, CPU, extensively used, you are unnecessarily using this. That's why trace options we don't activate in general. I mean, unless there is some approval again. So trace also, like transport and restarting of the system, needs approvals, right? Trace enablement also needs some approvals in process perspective. Yeah? Keep this in also background. It's not like you just go and turn it on and turn it off. No, it looks very simple. I'll show you, but no, you are not supposed to do that. It is again causes a system side effects. Okay, don't do that. So in SAP environments, let's do the exact trace. Name itself is explanatory, but still, let's try to understand. This is a function used for logging system activities. Yeah, the correct word is logging system activities in certification C. Because trace, activate and deactivate, it's simple, but logging system activities. What is happening in this system? What is happening during a job? What is happening with a dialog user? You logged in and you are changing some users' authentication, removing the roles, adding the roles. Right, changing the address of the user, like that. So any activities in the system you can trace. So it can be switched on, off, and the level of detail can be adjusted. So remember, I've explained you trace level 0, trace level 1, trace level 2. Like that, you can increase the trace level so that based on the trace level, it starts capturing the logs. Okay, trace level 1 is more than sufficient in most of the cases, but some you just turn on the trace for a couple of minutes and then see the logs and then close it. So that is also fine. That depends on the kind of trace and the duration of the trace you are enabling. Okay. So in general, if existing trace doesn't help, then increase the trace. If it doesn't help, then increase it. You go in a sequential way rather than just enabling it to the higher level and then you are causing unnecessary things. So go in a level by level, because anyway trace is enabled for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So it is important that, as a basis guy, patience also. So, and you always have to think that you rescue the system. I mean, you don't trouble the system. You go in a sequential way, even though sometimes it takes 4 or 5 days. Okay. For day one, you do a trace level 1, and then you analyze for 1 day, and then it is not sufficient. Then analyze the next day, trigger again. Next day. Sometimes issues goes for 3 to 6 months also, 3 months to 6 months, and then you will be troubleshooting a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, but fine. The patient level of patience also important, and believe me, the issue will get resolved and the root cause will be identified, because there is no taking back that skipping the root cause analysis for any problem. Okay, and because you have to address that problem if a user is having. That's why these trace options and all, along with SAP product support or server management or anybody, you have to figure it out. There is no taking it back. Simply saying that, okay, this is not happening, or monthly once it is happening, okay, we can ignore. No. So that kind of attitude or that kind of work, no customer will allow, and we have to, by hook or crook, we have to solve the problem. Okay, let's go with the trace. So logs. So information that is continuously written, logging certain system events. Logs can be held within the SAP system or externally at the operating system level, SM21. So these logs basically, they are actively collecting. It's an active collection. So as I said, so these same logs can be used for monitoring also. I mean, that's why there is a framework with SAP Basis. It comes, that component, a framework comes which is suitable for anything. I mean, number one, the capturing of these logs and also to write the data relevant for the statistics. Okay, it all comes under the monitoring category only. This tracing and this logging and triggering the alerts. This all comes in the monitoring aspects of the system. Okay, in the monitoring framework of the SAP Basis. But I mean, three ways of doing it. I mean, different scenarios, you use the same logs in a different way. Yeah, during a crash, you use those logs, but during the preventive, you use from the RJ20. And during the issue, or if you want to live troubleshoot, and if you want to increase the existing trace, then this is the option. Okay, so good. So logs or trace functions. What are the trace functions? So SM21 we have seen, or you want me to execute again? SM21. This we have seen the other day, from so and so time to so and so time. So you can check the what all things are happening. Let's see the execute. Today, what is happening in the system? So many things. So some message ID Q0 operating system can connect failed. Maybe it is the old server, something, but fine. So this way you can see the logs of the SM21. And then you have, where is this one? Yep. ST22, dump analysis. The other day I've explained to you in detail what is this dump, how do you collect it, how do you pass it to this SAP development support, or if it is a customized program, you have to send it to your customizing whoever has done. So, but three new ones, ST01 trace, performance analysis, and developer traces. So these are the three different traces which are important for you. Okay, that we will cover. Good. But again, we'll try to understand the exact definitions of them just for certification purpose and stuff. So you can use system log transaction SM21 to determine and correct errors that occur in your system and in its environment. Yes. So SAP application servers record events and problems in the system logs, obviously. So this SM21 records event and stop, start. So those things all will be captured over here. Okay. Every SAP application server has a local log that contains messages output up by this server. So as I said, again, these are all relevant. Monitoring segment I've explained, right? Each server has its own shared memory where these logs are shared. Same thing they're talking. Every SAP application has a local log that contains the messages and output by the server. Simple. So it's all the same framework basically. If unpredictable errors occur at runtime, so example, programs. So as I said, it's a simple anything related to the program, syntax error or some table element did not find, or suppose a timeout, suppose the query has been run, select star from entire database. That's it, SQL query. It keeps on running for the whole day, right? So you cannot run it for a whole day, but system has some timeout set, so it will cancel that particular query. Then timeout occurs. So that kind of thing. A runtime that generates a shutdowns. So that you can see in ST22. Basically, ST22 is mainly happens with this one. So the third one. So these two are clear for us. So events and system logging SM21 and then unpredictable errors in ST22. If you want to record internal SAP system activities, okay, what are the internal system activities? I've explained. Changing of authorizations for a particular user. So database access, I mean, with the user, the system is logging into the database, or database user, something has been changed. I mean, users and authorizations from select read access to write access to read access, something is changed. And then the kernel functions, I mean, same exact executing the executables, copying those things, and RFC calls. So somebody has edited the SM59 entries. Okay. So you may think that it is very, SM59 is not so crucial. SM59 is the most messiest thing, that RFC connections. Okay. So I don't know if you guys have worked on the PI systems, SAP PI. So SAP PI, the whole thing and ERP communication, everything happens to SAP RFC. There will be thousands of RFC connections. So imagine a guy goes and, he touched an SAP RFC table. Okay. See, at the end of the day, those connections will go and set in the RFC table, there is one table. Okay. So in that particular RFC table, so some ways he logged into the database and simply deleted one column. Okay. By mistake or while writing an SQL command. So in mistake, he deleted a column of the username. That's it. All these thousands of RFC connections will go in an inconsistent day. Forget about inconsistent. They all stop working because the user ID has been missing. That's it. So then it's a very severe issue. All the communication interfaces, right? System A to system B communication and the communication towards non-ABAP systems and communication towards TCP/IP, HTTP connections and web browser, everything will get spoiled. So such cases. So then how do you troubleshoot it? So I mean, who has done it and what has done it? Fine. If a guy has done it, fine. That time you did not enable the trace and that is lost. Or somewhere in the system it could have been. But what happens? You fixed it. And then again it is happening. Right? I'm giving a practical scenario. When do you turn on this trace, ST01? So let's say somebody has deleted something and you found it or nothing. You don't know who has done it. So, and then you fixed it. You went and you recreated the table entry and you did a backup restore or whatever is it. Then again, after one day, it got deleted. So, which means either it is being done in manually or by a particular program or a job, somebody has configured it, right? So you want to identify it, who has done it. So then what you do, again, you fix it, but this time with a little bit of maturity. Yeah, what you do, you fix the issue, and then you know that it is happening in a day or two. Somebody is doing it for sure because this is happening. You turn on the ST01 trace. Okay. So ST01 trace, turn it on and then wait. Fine. In next one day, it has crashed. Again, the table entries got deleted or somebody has modified it or something has happened. Then this time you are in a good condition. Now you have the logs. Now you have the increased level of tracing, sufficient logs to troubleshoot who has done and what has happened. Okay. Then you can identify, oh, so-and-so program and those things will be captured and then you can fix it, right? So that is the use case for the ST01. Then again, the second kind of trace, the third one, performance analysis, ST05. Okay, so this one, ST05, okay, ST01 understood, guys, the trace before I go it. Any changes in the internal SAP system activities will be tracked with the ST01. Okay, shall I go with this database trace? So ST05.
Yes.
Yes, good. Thank you. So ST05 mainly talks about, fetches the or tracks the data on the database perspective. So I don't know if you guys have heard of these deadlock situations. I'm trying to recollect one good example so you can relate to this. Yeah, have you heard of this deadlock situation in a system on a particular table? No? Okay, fine. So this ST05, first let's read the definition, then give you example. Allows you to record database calls, log management calls, and remote calls of report transactions in trace file and displays the logged measurement as the result as lists. Okay, fine. So ST05, what it will do is basically from the SAP system, what are the database calls? Okay, who are all calling the database? As I said, all the dialog users or all the background users directly do not communicate to the database, right? So the communication to the database happens via a dedicated user or particular user, schema user or system user. Okay, because communicating all these users to database is a performance issue again. There are too many people communicating to the database, too much write and read thing. So that is not recommended. So only a particular data, single user or two users will fetch or write the data to the database. Okay, so now, but there are many people who are calling those activities. Okay, stable inserts, table writing. For example, you purchased a purchase order, so that has to go right in a database. You read something, some data, and you want to publish a report. That again write something and the background job. So everything at the end of the day goes to the database. Most of the activities. Okay, so you want to understand, now you have figured out that there is a particular job which is running every day, okay, but all of a sudden it starts taking, all of a sudden, so every day it is completing in 5 to 10 minutes, but that particular job is taking 5 hours, sometimes 1 day also. You got it? So, which means there is a significant time delay that job is taking. So now you have evaluated other jobs, everything is running fine, all the jobs. Because if you think that there is a performance issue on the server level and all looks good. But you want to understand what the hell this job is doing on my database. Okay. So then what you do is, during the start time of the database, you enable the database trace. Let's see what is going to happen. So what happens from over 5 to 10 minutes, you enable it. So, or you enable the entire duration of the job. That's depends. You can take that call. I mean, along with the architect team, but it is recommended to do for a shorter duration because that should give you a glimpse. I mean, what exactly is happening. So what happens whenever the job is started, this particular trace will start taking what all the tables it is calling. Okay, what all the entries it is making, everything. What are the locks it is placing on that particular table, or if that particular table is being locked by any other database. Any other job. You getting my point? So that is the deadlock situation. For example, job A, job V. Okay, job A is trying to access the one table. So as long as it is writing on the table, it will place a lock on that particular thing. Because if 2 people writes on the same time, then it will lead to an inconsistent state of the table, right? So you cannot do same in Excel also. If it's shared Excel, you can't write it in the same thing. So it will tell you that already some other person is editing. Same way. So, but this particular job is trying to access the same table. So the job which you are having the problem, until yesterday it was running fine. Okay. So it was writing. I mean, it is. So what is happening there? There was a deadlock, locking situation. Previous job is still occupying that particular table. So that is why this job is not able to proceed further. That is the problem. So then you need to see, that is why it is taking longer time. Basically, it got triggered, but it is waiting for the table to free up, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours until the other job gets finished. Okay. So that is how you have identified. So that you got to know whenever you have enabled this one. I mean, this trace, that is the logging mechanism, the table, which table it is calling, what logs have been placed. That information you will get it when you do this ST05 trace. You got it? So now, if you find such a situation, what is the alternative? So number one, the first job, right? So the first job, it is taking longer time. So then you schedule it in a different time. Because why do you want to put to the both jobs which are accessing the same table at the same time? So do one thing. So you prepone or postpone the job based on whichever is critical. So, 1 hour, 2 hours scheduling, you can always change. That's it. Your problem is solved. So this job also do not wait for the other ones to copy. Or the other option, you schedule the second job on event based. Okay. So I told you right during the background job, there is an event based. So only once the first job is finished, so the second job complete. So that is the best way of scheduling job. That is the event based use case. Hope you are connecting. So most of these jobs where there is a same table access, right? So if 2 jobs, you think that same table, it is being called. So you always put them event based. So you will avoid this situation. But yeah, there was a problem and the end user doesn't know, he just schedule it. That's fine. So that is how you analyze with the ST05 trace. Okay. So the next one, developer traces. Same again. It is similar to the performance developers. So programming corrections, debug modes. So those things can be tracked with the developer traces. So hope this ST01, ST05, ST11, clear guys? We will do a demo. Any questions on this before I proceed further?
Mm-hmm. What is the difference between ST11 and ST12? ST12 also used to take the trace and also for T codes and for respective user ID.
Check it out. ST11.
You'll get all dev related.
Yeah. ST11, this one. This one is the, okay, this we did yesterday. ST11.
These are the logs, like where you get in about that.
ST12.
This is the trace.
Yes. Okay. Fine. So this is also the ST12 also fine. I mean, ST12 you activate it, but this will be collected in the ST11. You see the traces over here. You got it? Whatever you have activated, right? Those will be written to these files, ST11, and you can go to the ST12 from here also. Okay, I think from the enable trace option, I will come to that slide. Okay.
No problem. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the main transaction, ST11. Okay. Okay. What happens is ST11 trace. From here, you can point to the ST12. I mean, where you can activate it. When you click on the activate screen, it goes there. So ST11 by default, it keeps tracking these logs. You remember that day OS level we have set dev_work process, dev_ICM, dev_RFC. So let me go there quickly. So let me go to the server. I'm in the server. Let me do this thing. New session. No, settings. EH8 ADM so that you can collect what I was explaining and what instead of theory. Good. I logged in. Again, it's changed. So settings, appearance, change, 18. Let me put apply. Okay, now it's clear for you. Let's do now CD USR. EH8. So basically, we are going to the work directory again. Okay. CD work. CD, the instance directory we have to go. Yes. So CD work. Okay. So these developer traces always on. I mean always on in the sense at least to the 0 level. So this we generally 99.9% we don't do it in a regular basis. Okay, because you already have these logs. It's an active collection. Okay, every minute it will be capturing. So and I don't think ST12 I have never enabled it. So if they need it, developers only enables it. But we don't do it regular basis because we already have the enough logs at the server level. Can you see? So these are all.
I got it.
So same logs you can see from the system access. Okay, dev_work9, dev_work2, because some people do not want have the this one access to the server, and moreover logging into the server again time consuming. Some are not comfortable. See, same trace, the same file you can read. So if you're not comfortable with Linux, okay, you can check it from here. But what is the drawback of reading it from here? Can somebody tell me?
Server is down, then we can't check.
Yeah, that is what I was about to come. That's why I don't introduce also these things for the people. Yes, it is good for you to know, but it is useless. Okay, so these traces are mainly useful when your system crashes or abnormal things. So because anyway you have to get into the server, you understand, right? So whatever these developer traces or these problems, these traces always on, and moreover, you need these traces only when system crashes. So then it doesn't matter whether you check it from, whether you know how to check it from an application, it's useless basically. But so when they are doing a specific development, right, these developers, for a particular program, they will enable it and then they will look into it. So this one, see, calling is failed, this ECC, this system, it is not able to find. So that's how this one, ST11 and 12. Okay, so yeah, we'll come to that developer trace. Let me see if I have a slide over there. Okay, I will explain you after this thing. We'll see if we can enable that trace and see what exactly it's going to do. It is like error log files. If I have to put it in a clean way, who has asked this question? So as I said, it is like active collection of the logs. It's just an error logs. So you can increase the trace from 0 to 1, 1 to 2. So it just captures the more. I explained the other day. These logs, what it has to copy or the increasing, that can be done. But in general, it always in on-set. The ST11 is nothing but regular monitoring of these component specific or the process specific. Okay. So any questions, guys? So this is again SM21. So let's not dump. Fine. We discussed the other day. So now system trace options. Okay. Now we talk about the ST01. Okay. Can we do? Am I audible, guys? Please.
Yeah.
Yes. So ST01. What it can do is let's execute this first. We'll see. First, we see the the screen how it happens. But remember, none of these things you do without an approval, please. So that is the most important thing. Doing activity is one aspect. Okay. Now, this is what I am going to talk now. So ST01, system trace, basically. So it is basically system activities. For example, authorization check. Suppose if somebody has changed the authorizations, okay? So then you can check those things. Kernel functions, general kernel. So DB access. Suppose if there is an SQL related, table buffer trace, buffers how they're getting, RFC calls, remote function calls. I mean, I told you somebody has modified this application system, basically system activities. HTTP calls, APC calls, AMC calls, but let's not activate all of them. So it's not a problem, it's problematic. So this is the trace. Okay, now let's go to the slide. Where are we? Yep. So these are all things you can do. You select the components to be if the trace is okay, this is fine. Yeah, all theory. So what we do is now we will activate one trace. So that is the most easiest way. So, but again, theory also, let's read it out for your reference purpose. So you can use the SQL trace to follow how OpenSQL commands. So I'm talking about, see, this one, these options. Okay. What happens if you enable the authorization check? What happens if you enable this SQL trace? What happens if you enable this RFC trace? What happens if you enable this log operations? Okay, that we are discussing now. Let's do that. So you can use the SQL trace to authorization check first. Okay, authorization check performed by the system or recorded. So if you turn it on, all authorizations performed by the system are checked. For example, my user, how I logged in, what I'm executing, do I have the authorization? Those things will be checked. During the evaluation, so, and I mean, when you activate it in the trace, what authorizations were used? So the following dependent date, I mean, at what time, what date, work process number, dev_10 or dev_3. So which work process I'm using, okay, and which object I'm using, which program I'm using, and which line number of the authorization value. So tell me, once you know the operating work process number, for example, this user, EST user or the trainer, myself, has logged into the system and I have enabled an ST01 trace for an authorization check. I got to know which of my work process is doing. Okay, so these are all interlinked. I mean, when it comes to the troubleshooting. Okay, work process, you got it, and this trace did not provide the sufficient information. But what do you check? You can go and check another ST11. Suppose it showed you that it is giving work process 3. So this guy, EST user, is using the work process 3. So now what happens? You go to the work process 3, dev_work process 3. Where is this? Here. Okay, you open it and see if you find some clues. Okay, that is how these traces, these error logs are interlinked. Okay, see, now you go and read out this one. So you will get some hint at that particular time when the issue has happened. So timestamp for this one. Okay, that is the ST01 authorization check. So you can use the SQL trace. I mean, how to open the SQL reports and transactions converted into SQL commands. Okay, so okay. So I mean, follow how the open SQL commands, reports and transactions are standard SQL commands. Okay, now you need to understand open SQL commands and the standard SQL commands. Okay, so open SQL commands are the ones. I mean, if you take any SQL database, you just take select star from so and so table. Okay, but when you are executing it on the database, I mean, if you want to write it to the database, that command does not work. Okay, the reason is, so, I mean, its format and everything looks to be similar, but there is a standard structure to write it to the database. What the command is saying. So there are some requirements. What is this? First, it has to log in with the user. Okay. So like a switch or log into the user, connect user. Okay. Like the command will follow like this. Connect user, SAP SID or SAP Sybase, the username, and then the password, and then the schema. I told you. So schema is the most important, under which the tables are schema, and then table, which table it is writing, that it has to convert to the standard structure while writing. So without following that, but anyway, that will be taken care by the system itself. But however, so you can follow. I mean, when you know that certain SQL commands are taking longer time, so if you turn on this SQL trace, so it will give you the exact details of from what to what it is converting and how long it is taking. And that will give you any hint if somebody could have put some typo in that SQL command, or instead of selecting table name, he could have put some SAP SR star, which means SAP SR1, SR2, SR3, all the tables will be selected like that. So in such cases, it will help you, this SQL trace. Okay.
Our comprehensive student metrics ensure top-notch learning experiences. We track engagement through attendance, participation, and video interactions. Performance is measured via quiz scores and assignment submissions. We monitor learning behaviors, including time spent and revisit patterns. Our metrics cover social learning, course completion rates, and even post-course success. With technical data on platform usage and device information, we optimize every aspect of your learning journey.
With the NQ trace, NQ, I told you, what is NQ? Can somebody answer?
Yes, if one user is using a particular change,
Okay.
then other user is not allowed to go and change the same thing.
So yes, so NQ is mainly for the locking mechanism. Yeah, locking mechanism. So if one program or multiple people can use the same program, that should not be a problem. But the database entry or this one has to happen on one at a time in a sequential way. Yeah, multiple same row, same thing cannot be done by common sense for us. I mean, then that leads to an inconsistent status. Okay, so same you can follow if you enable this NQ. So it will give you the information. What are the lock objects, on which objects it is performing? So what are the parameters or what are the things it is using to set those locks? And the important thing is the program that has to trigger the lock. So we will see the SM12. Okay, SM12 is the transaction where we see the locks. And the time that the NQ server required to release the lock again. So this is very important. For example, I don't know if you heard this term NQ overflow. Okay, remember this, note it down. NQ overflow. So what does this NQ overflow means? I mean, I'm giving a practical example. When you will turn on this ST01 NQ trace, okay, NQ overflow. So NQ in SAP terminology is nothing but, whenever you hear this word NQ is nothing but lock. That's it. Just your synonyms. Okay. So locking. So NQ overflow is the number of locks placed in a system will be increased. In the sense, so there also we define certain parameters stating that a system can accept only 100 locks, not locks, 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 which means you can place up to only 100 or 200 locks. So if you place more than those 200 locks, then the system has not designed in an optimal way, or your jobs are not scheduled in a proper way. There was a problem. So NQ overflow means those locks will not get released. Okay, all of them, or you put it as a deadlock situation. Okay, so the locks keep on increasing, but none of these locks are generally getting released, which is the ideal behavior is as soon as fraction of milliseconds. Okay, the locks doesn't stay for don't think that they will be there for 1 day or 2 days. No, so majority of the locks within fraction of seconds, milliseconds, they will get closed. I mean, it will place an entry, then it will release, place an entry, release, place an entry, release, like that it happens. But these BW systems, these are the most messiest ones, where there is lots and lots of data. It's been reading or writing this so much of data, reading generally BW for reporting purposes, reading. So, I mean, that problem was solved in the HANA. I will explain when we are talking in HANA, but earlier we used to have these problems. So it places a lock and that's it. It will sleep. Whole night it will be doing the same activity on the table until that particular table or that lock is released. System doesn't, I mean, none of others can be able to do anything. Okay, that's the problem. So those cases, NQ overflow situations, too many locks in the system. You want to understand who has triggered this problem? Who has triggered this locking program? Okay, which program is calling? Okay, which is placing on the system, which is placing on that particular table. So that information, and at what time lock is being released. Okay, so that information you will get it when you run this table. I'm sorry, this trace, this lock option, NQ option. Okay, but remember, you do these things only when there is an approval and you have a strong reason, and your all other information from SM22 background jobs, all of them, those are giving hint to you that there is a overflow situation. Simple. So you just go to this one. You can find it very easily. Okay, go to SM12. I'll give you a simple reason when you have to do this trace also. So SM12, and then you remove this client. So fine, anything. So because if you know the client in which, so lock argument or the. So star, and then table. If you know the table, that's fine. If you don't know the table, ignore it. So then let's list it out. I mean, table on which the locks has been placed. So currently we have these many SM12 entries. So lock mode, EXO, whatever it is. But know that if there is a problem in the system, all of these will be marked as red. I mean, they will appear in red. Like RJ20 we have seen, right? There is a problem. So whenever you see such a situation, and 5 to 10 locks is fine. Okay. If you see a situation like, see here, username, who is doing this also, but you will get the table name. You find certain basics here. But if you want to know the more details, at what time it started, at what time it released, that information you may not find until unless you live monitor it. Okay. So if you see thousands of logs over here, some 2,000, 3,000 logs, then it's an NQ overflow situation. Okay. So too many logs, somebody is generating, locking the tables so frequently, that is causing the performance issues. That time you come here and you execute this ST01 trace. So you will get, in ST01 also, this particular option. What is this? Okay. So where is this? No. Lock operations. Yeah, these are self-explained, but remaining ones we don't use so frequently. That's fine. RFC means RFC related changes. Okay. So if you don't know anything, if it is just for 5 to 10 minutes, select all default settings and then trigger it. 5 to 10 minutes is fine, but not more than that. Okay. With experience on the requirement, or the product support or the developers will suggest you which trace to be turned on for what. Okay. So mostly you do these things as a part of SAP's recommendation. Okay. SAP will tell you that, hey, I'm trouble. I mean, suppose there is a system crash or some issue, then you are working. SAP will do a debug. I mean, you have provided the work day. Those are the clean way, guys. I mean, the ST11 logs or the OS level logs, which I've shown you, work directory logs, those are the most crucial ones. That's why there is a live rating. I mean, they are active rating. Once you provide those details to the SAP product support will ask you, okay, they have identified from those errors that there is a problem, and they will ask you to run this trace. Okay, and that will give them the more details to troubleshoot for that. Okay, those were the use cases where you would run this one. So let's do one thing. So let's see how you can turn on this trace. Simple. For example, I'm with this US01 authorization. So let me show this all save. So just it is 01. So trace is switched off now. You got it? Suppose if it is locked, no need. So authorization checks you are doing, or if you want to do other things also, you just check it and then you come here. So trace on. Let's do this. That's it. So I mean, doing is very simple, but see now trace is switched on the main thing. Let's do one thing. Let's go to the SU01. So let me see ST01, see if it has the latest logs. Sorry. ST user 1. Or let's do TCS user 1. Change. Go back, no, because I enabled the trace with the user. Let's do the ST user 1 only. Change. So I'm changing this to the doctor or Mr. So SAP Basis, and then remove this one, then just save it. So let's see the rules. Yeah, change. Let's see if I can change some files. SAP new, let me delete it. Yeah, this is how I delete it. So now save it. Good. Now let's go to our ST01. Let's see. Okay. So let's stop the trace. So now we have switched off the trace. Now what you do is save analysis. I mean, if you want to see it. So EST user one, use remove all these timings and all, so that we see what exactly happened with this user. So we may not be able to interpret it. I mean, what exactly happened, but developers, once you provide these details, I'm just trying to show you. For you, the important thing is how you start, how you stop. So any other activity depends on these things. Just put the default settings, and then where is the start reporting? How to collect the data? See, this is how you collect it, and then you save them to the local file. So if you see these are all web related, you and me cannot understand it. Yeah, we basis guys will not be able to understand it. If you understand it, that is well and good, but it will give you the details. So for us, the administration thing, you see here, so it has started tracking certain things. So this is 1309. So we have done some activity. So it has tracked, right? Some changes we did. So once we provide these logs, so this entire thing to them. So some see SU01, I did something. Where is this one? Somewhere I've seen SU0. Yeah, see name SU01. Can you see, guys? So something I've done. So when these are all the technical terms for that particular table at database level, these guys, our product support will be able to help with this one. But for us, the thing is taking it to the local file. That's the important thing. So text with tabs or unconverted is a text file. Text with tabs is like Excel. So remaining three rich text format is like text format with Word kind of thing. Okay. So unconverted. So change it to the directory, some local directory. So here, I think this is not this download option has been found, but just select it to your laptop and then generate. Let's see, it comes. Yeah, it has come. Simple. So your file has opened. So see, it's a big file. So 1807 something. So whatever happened in the system, it will track and it will send it to them. Okay. So this is how you enable or trace, and then you provide the system to the product support or whoever is needed in the need of this. If you understand this trace, that will be well and good. But this is like more of a troubleshooting, and the analysis team, root cause analysis teams will do this. Anyway, sometimes we also do it, but most of the time these programs we will not understand. Okay, but for our task is taking how to enable, how to come back, and the inputs also based on the error logs which they see, right? The experts will tell you what to turn on. So most of the time, basis guys, they will ask us to turn it on and capture the logs and share it to them. So any questions, guys, here? Any trace. So kernel functions, all of them are same. Okay, we will get the recommendation or the request. We will enable it and we will share the logs. And if you have time, you read it, and based on the issue, it will explain you. Okay, so you may ask, where does this files goes and sits? It's simple. USR SAP SID dialog log and trace. For example, we just enabled this one. We'll see. So what is the directory? This one, PWD. Let's see in the work directory, all of this, the cd dot. So whatever the ST01 trace we have enabled, right? So this should be written in the log. cd log. Okay. So you see here trace. So 221 or 217, you remember we enabled this trace. Can you see this, guys? Can you see my screen? Please confirm.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah. So 217, around 217, we triggered this trace. So now that's why this file has a latest update on the 270. I mean, so now we can do, let's do a quick more. Let's see. So the same thing, when we did the start analysis also happened the same thing. Yep. So this file has the so which means this is readable from only the SAP, I mean SAP system when we do start reporting, right? But this is the file, I mean what we did over there. Okay. So I mean it's readable or not, it's a different story. But where does the trace ST01 trace writes the files is in the log directory. Okay, remember this. Okay, good. So log directory in the file name called trace. That is what this diagram is explaining. Okay. So at this point, you call the transaction, activate the author, which we did. Call for transaction object and change the profile, deactivate the trace again. So this we did, and this file has captured that one. So any questions, guys? Before I move to the ST05. Good. Understood. Perfect. So now let's do the ST05. ST05. Okay. So here again you have SQL trace, buffer trace, enqueue trace. So here we are mainly talking about database. Okay. Enqueue means also locking. We have lock operation in the ST01 also. You may ask a question, what is the difference between these two? So in the first one, in ST01, it's like system related. Okay. So when a system is when from operating system or the enqueue process, who is calling those logs and stuff. But here on the database level, okay, if there are any database functions or how these SQLs will flow, as I explained you, I mean, from operating system, open SQL commands to the database SQL commands, how they're converting, if that user might have some authorization issue, the user which connects from operating system to the DB user, okay? That kind of things will be tracked in this SQL trace. Let's see. So it is also very simple as self-explanatory. So do an active trace, activate trace, that's it. Select it, activate for user. Yeah, this has activated for the user, this one. And then let's do a display trace. Yes. So when the trace is in active mode, then it may tell you that it is in, you may not be able to see the trace, what is happening. So now you stop the trace. Or let's do certain things executed. SE38. I mean, database, right? So for example, RSTP test. I mean, what we check it for the, let's execute it. Oh, this is the problem for this one. Some error. Okay, good. That's all right. 38. That's fine. So you have executed something and it has thrown an error. Now, where are we? Now let's go to again ST05. I mean, first of all, it's not connected to the database, or we could have seen it, what exactly happened. So now deactivate the trace first. Trace off. Now display the trace. So and then the timing to timing 24:38 to I think 1 minute we have activated this one. Let's find. So what is happened? Display trace overview. Yeah. So in that particular thing, I mean, in that 1 minute, what exactly has happened has been written over there. Again here, so to analyze this, if we understand, that is well and good, but this will be analyzed by the database team. Database in the sense, again, SAP products about database. So SQL DB access. So select, insert, and then comment rollback. And these are all the DB executions. So how many SQL trace contains? 25 open operations. So in that particular report, when I executed, it has tried to check for the 25 things. Okay. So, I mean, if there is a problem, then it will report somewhere here. But for now, it just followed the what is executed from here to there. Okay. So this is how you do the tracing. Okay. ST05. And then the next slide is, so then the other one is the transaction ST11. Have you heard of developer traces? I think this I've shown you at OS level and both in SAP level. So there is one more transaction, AL11. Have you ever tried this transaction? AL11.
Yeah.
This doesn't exist. So I think it contains the, yeah. So it contains the directories. I mean, you can access the OS files and then what file, what it has, the DS or SAP trans. As I said, under normal conditions, you can see this. The biggest disadvantage, I mean, which I don't use it in a day in and day out, and I would recommend you to don't use it also. So anything can be accessed from the database, I mean, SAP system. But believe me, the basis work comes only when system goes down. Okay. Rest all evaporator functional guys also have, when the system is up, they will be able to figure out themselves. Okay. They don't reach to the basis guys. So because as long as they have the access, if a guy who is experienced in functional or a developer, 10 years or 15 years, right? So I mean, they don't tickerize tickets and they don't get into these things. So they know they have this access and they will figure out and they will fix also. That is why basis guys may not get most of these functional and developer issues because they'll fix themselves. I mean, one of the senior guys knows in that. So they can access these logs. They only enable the trace. I mean, developer trace, ST12. They only enable it, they only check it, and they will fix it. That's it. Because developer trace, we don't touch programs and all. But ST01 and ST05 are important for us because they ask us only. Because it has something to do with on database and ST01. And developers don't ask. Product support will ask these things. Okay, SAP product support, or when you raise a OSS message to the SAP, they will ask us to provide these details based on the ST11 logs. Okay, so these things will come into picture only when the system is up and running. You can see from SAP system, but I would always recommend you, I mean, you be comfortable with this one. I mean, this OS level. For example, so you CD work, this is the most important. CD dot CD work now. Okay, so these things, how do you navigate? How do you this? You think be practice. Okay, for example, dev_229 something has updated. I want to see 10 minutes back open. So do one thing, tail minus 100F. What? Sorry, this tail minus. Let's do this. Tail minus 100F. So you just want to see what happened just before this time. So which means it will display the last 100 lines. Okay. So these kind of things. Sorry. See, it displayed the only last 100. So I'll go up. Or you can do. See, last 100 lines only displays. So you just want to read the what is happening in the last. So September 13, 112 to 229. It has captured the logs from 112 here to 220. This is more than sufficient. Or tail minus 40F or 30F you can do. So like that you have to do. Okay. For example, if you know some error, so keyword you have to find. So grep-i. So error, I means small or capital. Okay. And then file. Or no, that is pipe 1. So you just want to see only errors in this dev_work16 like that. See, straight away it has given all the errors. So like this, you be comfortable or execute this. So for example, tail. Suppose during this you have started the system. So you want to see what is happening, how this thing is getting updated. Tail minus F. F. See, so whatever it is, so it keeps on updating. I mean, if something is running, so you want to monitor some log, just give tail minus F during the start or stop. So monitor like this. So these are the basic OS commands. When we have this OS thing, I'll try to explain you. I mean, give you some hints and tips for this, but always learn one way. I mean, you don't have to check from that one. Easy to check from SAP, but this way, during outages or system planned activities, or any time you can troubleshoot it from here. So, I mean, it's important for you to be comfortable with this particular aspect.